Hi YouTube, we've got a 2012 Dodge Ram 2500 in today. We've got a number 4 cylinder misfire on this. Basically some preliminary checks have been made, swap the coils around, swap some injectors. Number 4 code still pops up, so we got the valve cover off. Basically I've got a remote starter switch here and I want you to see what's happening here. We've got front cylinder here is number 2. The second one's number 4. We've got number 4 code. I'm going to crank this, and you'll watch this intake valve. You notice number 2 or number 4 intake valve isn't moving. We've got a camshaft failure, and so the engine's going to come apart for cam and lifters. Okay, we've got the engine out of the truck and out here on a stand where we can work on it. I've already done an inspection on the valve springs. All the seat pressure looks good when you try to press down on the valve. The 2012 has an improved valve spring, so I'm not looking for that to be a problem. We're going after a flat camshaft in this motor. Another thing you want to do sometimes before you take these apart is take a air hose and screw into the cylinder, leave one spark plug in it, and shoot some shop air pressure into it, 100 psi or better, and make sure you don't have any valves leaking before you take the head off. Be a good test for that, so save you some trouble. Okay, I've got the right cylinder head off of this thing. We had a number 4 misfire on this, and basically this is the lifter. You can see the end of it came out, and the roller part of it, it's flattened out, so you know it's going to be a bad cam to go along with it. A roller that looks normal is going to look something like that, but we're not going to reuse any of them. We're going to put them all in new. Here's what a cam failure looks like on these Chrysler Hemis. You can see the lobe on this thing is worn down pretty bad. Looks like the roller just quit spinning on this lifter. You can see it's flattened out, and of course when this thing was wound up, it spit out the end of the lifter, and then it went to misfiring on number 4. Okay, the camshaft's been installed on this motor, and a couple of basic things to tell you. There's a plate behind here that has 4 screws in it. They're number 30 Torx. They need to be torqued at 106 inch-pounds. The cam phaser bolt, it torques at 63 foot-pounds, so you want to be sure and get those torqued. Timing on the chain, there's 2 marks, and then I've marked a yellow mark on the cam gear. 12 o'clock on that, we're at TDC on number 1 cylinder, and on the bottom of the crank, your key slot, when you're on TDC number 1, is 2 o'clock. The mark for the chain is at 6 o'clock. I put a yellow mark on it, and there's the mark right there on the chain, so everything's in time. Make sure your tensioners are good, everything's tight, you're ready to go. All right, another thing you want to do is before you put this oil pump on, I'd recommend you replace it because there's been metal that's gone through this engine, but I'll show you what I found. I took the regulator plug out, and if you look at this inside this regulator spool, I don't know if I can pick it up, but there's bits and pieces of metal all around this thing, inside and out, and if that regulator sticks in that bore and sticks open, you're going to lose oil pressure, or if it sticks shut, you're going to have too much oil pressure. So be sure and look your pump over pretty good. If you got doubts about it, replace it. Okay, we're getting ready to put on one of the cylinder heads. Right now we're working on the right side. There is a right and a left-hand head gasket on these motors. Be sure that we're on the right bank. Be sure that you've got an R for right. We're using Velcro gaskets, and usually most of these engines, the coolant opening at the rear helps circulate water back through the head. So you're always going to kind of notice that on standard flow engines for coolant. So we're ready to put the head on. The torque on this these head bolts, the first step on this is 25 foot-pounds on the large bolts and 15 on the small. The second step is to torque all the bolts to 40, the large bolts, and then turn them additional 90 degrees. There's a torque pattern, how you go about it, and so there's a final torque. It's 90 degrees. Final bolts for the small or 25 foot-pounds. The engine's back together now and it's ready to come off the engine stand. This oil system has been primed. You pull out this oil pressure sensor here and put a pressure bottle on it. So the pan's been filled and the oil system's primed, ready to crank. So we're going to drop it back in the truck. Truck's been on a 20-mile test drive, got everything back together, no check engine lights, looks like everything worked out pretty nice. So thanks for watching the video, really appreciate it.